There's a new day dawning, the time is at hand, where the glory of the Lord will be revealed to every man. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in.
All right, open up the door, starts right now. So fling wide you heavenly gates and prepare the way of the risen Lord. The Apostle John was on the island of Patmos. He was in prison for the testimony of Jesus Christ, and he heard a sound behind him. He said, behold, I looked. There was a door standing open in heaven, and I heard a voice which was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place. That's what we need, my friend. We need a heavenly perspective of the things that are going on in the world around us, the things that the Word of God foretold us would come to pass, those things which must take place, those things which are taking place even now. That is what this broadcast is all about, discussing the issues of the day, discerning the times in which we live from a biblical perspective and worldview. Good afternoon, everybody. Andy White here. And what you are about to hear is the fusion of heart, mind, and soul. And I want to welcome everybody from all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors. Hey, I am streaming live on my YouTube channel. Please go on over to Andy White, Open Up the Doors. If you'd like to join in the conversation over there, please let me know where you're watching from. Introduce yourselves one to another over there on YouTube. Please take that YouTube link and put it into your Facebook stream, your MeWe stream, your Connect Zing stream. It's a new platform I'll tell you about in a second. But please share this and invite people to open up the doors. If you've never liked the Open Up the Doors Facebook page, yes, we are still there. They haven't banned us yet. But I won't hold my breath too long. But please, like the page in the interim. Like the page in the meantime. Go on over to facebook.com/faithfm91.7 and join me over there on Open Up the Doors. If you'd like to email me, you can email me as well at ajwhite777@icloud.com. It's ajwhite777@icloud.com. We are streaming over the internet here from Faith FM at hamptonschristian.com. And if you are outside of the Faith FM broadcast area, you can listen to Faith FM, Christian broadcast, Christian programming, music, great teaching, great teachers and preachers and programs on Faith FM by downloading the app. For your Android, go over to Google Play. For your Apple, obviously, go over to the Apple Store and just do the search for Faith FM. The app is free. Best way to listen to Faith FM 24/7 all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. I love to say that because it's fun. And I like to have fun on this broadcast. We talk about a lot of serious stuff, but I like to have some fun as well. So, Eddie, who I got here on YouTube? Let me look at my YouTube chat. Just want to say hello to some folks there. Thanks for joining in over there. I see Debbie. I see Connie. Remember that old show? When I was a kid, I'm going to really date myself now. Nobody's probably going to remember this show. It's called Romper Room. And I don't remember the teacher's name, but she would hold up a mirror and she would say, I see Sally, and I see Andy, and I see Johnny. Kind of still doing the same thing 60 years later on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you might be watching from. I haven't been streaming on Facebook because of the problems they give with all kinds of problems that they give. Anyway, let me get to it because, as always, I've got so much to get to. In the past few weeks, the past few broadcasts, I've been discussing with you all different aspects of the Great Reset. I've been doing kind of a series here. I'm going to continue with that today, probably even next week. There's so much involved with it. But I've been discussing with you the aspects of the Great Reset and how the elites are utilizing the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse to rapidly advance their globalist agenda and establish a new multipolar world order. Now, I didn't make up that term. That's actually a term that Vladimir Putin came up with years ago, and him and Xi Jinping are trying to create this new multipolar world order between the Axis powers of Russia and China. I'm going to get into that more. I've done broadcasts on that topic in the past. But the Great Reset, the terminology they're using is multilateralism. Now, folks, I want you to really pay attention today. I have a whole, I know you probably always pay attention to me, right? But I want you to pay extra attention to me because there's a lot of stuff I'm going to try and wade through today, and a lot of different things that are interconnecting and converging together. Some things that don't even seem like, there are some things converging together that you might think are like opposite of each other. You're like, how could that be? Well, I'm going to try and explain that today in this broadcast a little bit. But one of the terms that the folks over at the Great Reset, the folks over at the World Economic Forum are using, they got a lot of new buzzwords. One of the buzzwords they're using is multilateralism. But I'm going to call it what Putin and what Xi Jinping call it. And by the way, I'm doing this on purpose because it actually is more of what the Bible shows, as I will get into a moment. But anyway, they're trying to establish this multipolar world order, where amongst other things, first and foremost, to accomplish their plans, America, that'd be me and you, here on the United States, all across the fruited plain, America would be greatly diminished. It would not be a superpower. And that's their words, by the way. That is something that they openly state. In fact, the World Economic Forum last year, they put out a video citing 8 predictions or 8 things, 8 goals, and what their aims are. And number 3 on this list of 8 things, and you can see the video, is this: the U.S. won't be the world's superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. Yep. The UN and the World Economic Forum, it's in their game plan to diminish us. Now, as I've said, this is something I've talked about in several broadcasts in the past, about this new multipolar world order. Again, both Putin and Xi Jinping have explicitly stated they are working towards this goal. And folks, this is a scenario. This is a scenario which is 100% in keeping with biblical prophecy. What the Bible shows us will come about in the last days. These last days kingdoms, these last days alliances that we see on the world stage in the end times. These kingdom alliances that we can read about in Daniel and Ezekiel and Revelation. Now, the other day, I posted something about how the Pentagon is getting really, really worried about the Russian-Chinese alliance that's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I commented on something. I actually posted a post about how China and Russia are literally preparing for war with the United States. And I posted this article the other day, and somebody commented on the article in a post. They said this. This is a quote, their comment. Putin is no friend of the United States, but he is more willing to take out China to keep from usurping Russia's place on the world stage. And I had a comment back because that's just wrong. That's 1960s and 1970s thinking. The times have changed, my friends. The times have changed, and biblical alliances are being forged even as I speak. Therefore, I felt compelled. I had to answer. I couldn't let that stand because it just wasn't true. And part of what I do here and Open Up the Doors is I want to inform people. I want to inform people of the actual things that are going on. And we can't be relying on what we thought 20, 30, 40 years ago. Things like mutual assured, another person brought up the idea of mutual assured destruction. That's out the window. Things aren't going down that way anymore. But anyway, I digress a little bit. Let me tell you what my answer is to him, and I'm laying out this foundation for a reason. So stick with me. I said to this brother, I said, what you said is not so anymore. Putin and Xi Jinping have become buddies the last few years. Russia and China have held major joint war games together over the last couple of years, and they've strengthened their military and economic ties. Both Putin and Xi Jinping have openly talked about it, I'll say it again, this new multipolar world order with the Axis power between them. They want hegemony over the West, folks. And Russia needs China's economy. This is where I really felt, because he said, oh, the Russians will take the Chinese out because they want to be king of the hill. No, Russia is basically broke. Russia needs the powerhouse economy that China has become. And that's just bottom line. That's what's going on geopolitically right now. And they want hegemony over the West. In 2001, and I did a broadcast on this about a year and a half ago. I did several broadcasts. I did one broadcast called The Kings of the East, another broadcast called the New Multipolar World Order. Go back and listen to those broadcasts, because I've been talking about this for almost 2 years now. But in 2001, Russia signed on with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, with Beijing and with the Stan countries, over there. You got Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. You got all these other stands over there. Well, they all formed with Moscow and Beijing this economic and this security alliance, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. By the way, India, I don't know if India is officially in it yet, but India was trying to get into it. My point in bringing that is, I believe this Shanghai Cooperation Organization is possibly the formation of the kings of the East that we read about in Daniel 11 and Revelation. In fact, about a year and a half ago, China and Russia had the largest joint military exercise ever together in Russia, and it was codenamed East. So don't doubt for a minute that they want to take us out. I'm going to cut this short because I covered this in those other broadcasts. And I want to tell you, this is not about fear-mongering, folks. I'm not fear-mongering in any way. I'm just looking at the reality of the geopolitical situation in light of biblical prophecy. These things will take place. These things must take place according to the scriptures. Back in 2016, when the European Union and Angela Merkel began to see Putin getting really, really friendly with China, they wanted to pull Russia into the into the European Union and have stronger ties with NATO even. And Angela Merkel sent Putin a really strongly worded message. She said this to Putin, quote, "You are making a big mistake going rogue from the New World Order." Those are her words. You are making it almost sounds like a threat. You are making a mistake going rogue from the New World Order. Come into the fold, Vladimir. Come into the fold before it's too late. I don't know what a German-Russian accent would sound like, so I don't know. Come into the fold, Vladimir. We want to give you a warm, fuzzy hug. Why are you running over to the Chinese for? No, she didn't say that. I'm just making that part up. But this is what transpired here. Now, needless to say, Putin was not intimidated by Merkel. In fact, he basically laughed it off. Because, I'll say it again, they've been doing this for a couple of years now. Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping are intent not on a one world order, not on a unipolar world order. They want a new multipolar world order. And Putin and Xi Jinping, they're seeing what pretty much everyone else is seeing as well, which is that the Eurocentric New World Order is weakening and falling apart. It's only a matter of time, folks, before there is a radical global realignment. And in some ways, the Great Reset, I think in some ways, is probably Europe's kind of a European last gasp for their vision of a one world order. But this Chinese-Russian vision, it's already in the works. China is an economic and military power, and that is what's concerning our military leaders. They've caught up to us, if not have surpassed us. Putin has aligned himself with China. The West is in decline and collapsing, and if anyone thinks it's not, they're in denial and not paying attention. Back in just last year. Let me quote some things here. And again, I'm laying a foundation for a reason. So hang with me here, especially for those of you who've heard me talk about this before. But we got to be reminded of these things. Last year, Putin got together with Xi Jinping, the dictator, president of China, and in a joint press conference over there in Moscow, Putin said this, quote, a unipolar world does not exist anymore. Global economic development has led to the appearance of a multipolar world order. If the multipolar world order has been established, a unipolar world order does not exist anymore. Now, I'm bringing this up because the vision of the Great Reset is unipolar, not multipolar. Well, I take it back because they're flipping around with terms. They're calling it multilateralism, you see. So they're trying to converge the unipolar idea with multilateralism. Now let me go back to what their aim was in the video they put out. The U.S. won't be the world's superpower. A handful of countries will dominate. Great Reset's calling that multilateralism. China and Russia, they're saying multipolarization. And they're trying to make it sound like it's the same thing, but it's really not. Xi Jinping just spoke to the World Economic Forum last week. And, I wanted to try and find some place to find out what he said. I just ran out of time. But he just spoke there last week. So these guys are they're really playing games with each other, even in the game that they're playing globally. But let me go back to what Putin was saying just last year. Putin said this. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, there was an illusion that this world, this unipolar world, with America being the king of the hill, I'm adding that, he didn't say that, but that's what he means. There was an illusion that this world is possible and could exist for a long time. However, Putin said it was just an illusion. I have always said that, and recent events serve as a testament to this. A multipolar world is a result of economic relations, Putin stressed. After the Second World War, the American share in world GDP constituted 50%, and now China's share is bigger than the U.S. one. China is ahead of the U.S. in its share in the global GDP and in other areas, for example, in parity of purchasing power. Basically, Putin was saying, Russia doesn't need us, China doesn't need us. A lot of people think they do. They only need us to suck the life out of us. They want to be a parasite because like Trump said, and he was right in the past, we've made stupid deals with China in the past. And now that Biden's back, he's reinstating all those stupid deals. And folks, we're on thin ice because all this stuff is converging together. Let me finish Putin's quotes. I got a lot here to get to. A world cannot have a unipolar structure with just one center that controls the entire global community. Let that quote sink in, because these guys are acting like they're on board with the Great Reset. They're showing up at the World Economic Forum. They're shaking hands. They're glad handing everybody. They're giving speeches. But here's what Putin's really thinking. A world cannot have a unipolar structure with just one center that controls the entire global community. And he's right. And he's biblically right. And I'll build on that. In this sense, our cooperation with China is very important. We will strengthen our multilateral strategic ties. Multilateral. See, he went from multipolar to multilateral. Multilateral is a World Economic Forum buzzword. We will strengthen our multilateral strategic ties, and I am confident that this will benefit both the Chinese and the Russian people. Now, again, I'm bringing all of this up for a reason, folks. When the UN talks about multilateralism and a global order, when the Russians and the Chinese talk about multilateralism, They're using the same buzzwords, but they have two different things going on in their own minds. And it's critical to understand this. It really is. Lest we get caught up in a lot of other nonsense. It's critical to understand what's going on because it lines up perfectly with what the Bible describes regarding the last days alliances of nations. I'm going to transition here a little bit to build on what I've just been saying. And I hope you folks on YouTube are following me along. Those of you on the radio, those of you on FM radio, you got to hear this. I'm trying to give you useful, pertinent information about how to prepare yourselves for the days ahead. Because many have a mistaken idea that there will be a literal and singular, unified, unipolar world government. But that is not what the Bible actually shows. What it shows is that there are alliances and confederations vying for dominance. One of those will arise will be the kingdom of the beast. The Antichrist will reign over a 10-nation confederacy. Understand this because we've got we've really got this stuck in our heads that is going to be a literal one world government, unified world system. That's not what the Bible shows. Now, they may want that. In fact, each one of these confederacies, that is their goal. So let me reword it a little bit. That is their goal. But you've got all these factions fighting for the same goals, which is the point. There will be, obviously, an Antichrist kingdom. It's described in Ezekiel as Magog, whose leader is Gog. I believe that is the Antichrist. I know there are some who have different views on this. After studying this out for 40 years now, I am fully convinced, after years and years of studying eschatology and looking at what the early church said. And I really don't want to go down a bunny trail, but I know some people might be hearing this for the first time. Gog in Ezekiel 38 and 39 is the same person as the king of the north in Daniel 11, is the same person as what's referenced to as the beast in Revelation. They're all the same person. They're all the same, the beast confederacy. I call it the kingdom of the Magog, of the Magog confederacy. Again, I'll state it again. In Daniel, he's called the king of the north. It's the same person. And we see in Daniel that the king of the north, in Daniel 11, wages war against the kings of the south. My point here is, this is what Jesus said. Coming into the last days, it'll be kingdom against kingdom. We also read in Daniel how news of an attack from the north and east. Read it in Daniel 11. News of an attack. After the king of the north, the Antichrist, subdues the kings of the south, which could be an alliance possibly between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. That is open to discussion. Because when you look at Ezekiel 38 and 39, Egypt and Saudi Arabia are not in the beast confederacy. So whoever the king of the south might be, either one of those, the king of the north goes down and conquers them. But while he's doing it, we read in Daniel 11, he gets news from the north and from the east. Well, who would be north and east of the king of the north? Well, that would be Russia and China. That would be the kings of the east. And the Bible tells us that the Antichrist, the king of the north, goes out against them with a great rage in Daniel 11. My point here is that the Bible shows us there are all these military and economic alliances that are vying for global dominance. And like I said, I've talked about these things through the years. And the point I want to make, as I set this up to show you how the Great Reset is working in with this, the point I want to make right now is that this one world government will never be completely successful, try as they may, because, quite frankly, despots and tyrants, being what they are with their imperialistic desires, will be warring against each other right up until the final battle of Armageddon. And that we see in the scripture really clearly. That is clearly what the Bible shows us about the end times prophecies. So this idea of a unipolar, unified one world government really is somewhat of a misnomer, a misunderstanding of biblical prophecy. Again, I'll reiterate for emphasis. What we see described in Revelation is the 10-nation confederacy of the beast, which is primarily Revelation's focus because it concerns the Antichrist attack against Israel and the church. So it becomes kind of a central theme, a central thought in Revelation. But when you look at all the scriptures together, you see all the other warring factions. They will be the superpower. That kingdom of the beast, when it arises, when that 10-nation Magog confederacy arises, it will be the superpower in those days. Because the scripture says, for who is able to make war against the beast? Now the kings of the north in Revelation try, but we see how this beast system is a superpower. It is this confederacy that is the main focus of the scripture, as I said a moment ago, because of its hatred of both Israel and the saints of God, as we read in Revelation 12 about how the dragon goes out to persecute the woman who's Israel and the saints. So I am kind of going long on this opening block, and I've got so much more here. Let me sum up. Before I take a break, because what I have here could really, in a lot of ways, could be kind of just reiterating what I already said. Here, as I said a moment ago, these kingdoms, these divergent forces will be clashing and warring in the last days with all of their opposing agendas. This is why I think it's important we understand what's going on with this Great Reset. Yes, they have goals. Yes, they have desires. Yes, they have plans. But I told you last week in the broadcast, God's got other plans and other goals and other aims. But Jesus said that there would be wars and rumors of wars, nation rising against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So then, how does this great reset fit into all of this? There is no question in my mind that it is a catalyst of all that will be evolved in the final beast system. All of these alliances will be, before they start warring with each other, they will be having these alliances through something like the World Economic Forum, through something like the world, the Great Reset. They're gonna do it a la carte. Some of these nations might like this aspect of it, and other nations and alliances will like this aspect of it, but they may not all always join up with the whole thing. They might not eat the whole cake. But here's the bottom line. What is there in the infrastructure is the system of the beast, a surveillance state of total control, a technocracy where not one area of life will be left untouched. The Great Reset is a plan which aims to reform everything from government and energy and finance and food. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next block. Medicine, real estate, how we interact with one another. There is no doubt, brothers and sisters, in my mind, that there is a convergence and an overlapping going on regarding this Antichrist agenda, because that's what it is. And it seems like when you look at the Great Reset, when you take a step back and you look at it and analyze it, all the Great Reset is an amalgamation. It's an amalgamation of, and it's a convergence of every bad totalitarian idea that has ever been conjured up, just being updated and repackaged. It seems to me it is a point of convergence for the last days spirit of the age, the eschatological zeitgeist, if you will, to put it in a theological framework. And we as Christians, this is the point of all I'm saying, we as Christians need to take note and make ready for the return of the Lord Jesus. And we must wake up and see the reality of the present situation in which we find ourselves in. But I got to take a quick break. I'll be back. Stick around, folks. Here's a tune by Tom Golly, local Long Island guy, called Come Home. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Come home.
Tune called Come Home by Tom Golly. Welcome back, everybody. Andy White here. You are listening to Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7, 93.3 in Napeague, and WEGQ 91.7 in Quag. And I'm here simply bringing a huge dose of reality to those suffering in the miasma of an alternative universe. And the what shall I say here? The thoughts and opinions expressed by me may not necessarily be the thoughts and opinions of Faith FM, but they are mine, and I appreciate the fact that they give me a platform to share my viewpoints and my sincere beliefs with you all in the Open Up the Doors audience. So let me get back, because I went pretty long on that opening segment because I've got so much here, and I wanted to really lay down I want to show you how all these things kind of are converging together. Because there, like I said a moment ago, I said in the previous block, there's a lot of new buzzwords going around out of the Great Reset. You're going to be hearing them more and more in the media. I shared some of it last week. Build Back Better, one of the main the slogan of the Great Reset, and it's being thrown around by everybody now. Build Back Better is a buzzword that you're going to hear more and more of. Multilateralism is a buzzword. But like I said a moment ago, the actual biblical scenario is a multipolar world order as opposed to multilateralism. A big buzzword that they're using now is equity and sustainability. And stakeholder capitalism, another buzzword. As I shared in the very first, I think it was the first week I did the Great Reset series here, I shared a little bit about what stakeholder capitalism is where really it's nothing other than collectivism. It's nothing other than communism. They redefine their terms because you will be hearing and hearing these terms and phrases incessantly being used in the coming days and weeks and months and years. They're going to keep speaking these phrases and promulgating them and inculcating them into the social psyche over and over. These terms will be repeated along with redefining what they actually mean. And this is also important, kind of a thing I've been looking at recently. In an article that's on the World Economic Forum's website, and they've got many articles there regarding the things that they want to do with this Great Reset. And in one article, I pulled this quote out because it caught my attention. It says this: as the world struggles to overcome from the COVID-19 crisis, recasting, see that? Recasting means redefining. Recasting multilateralism and reforming capitalism have been crucial tasks. Let me read that again, because it goes hand in glove with everything I've been telling you for the last several weeks. As the world struggles to overcome from the COVID-19 crisis, recasting multilateralism and reforming capitalism have become crucial tasks. Both need to become force multipliers in a new system of dynamic value creation. Now, quite honestly, I have no idea what that sentence means. I've read that sentence several times, and I'm like, I don't even know what they're talking about in that sentence. I'll be honest with you. But the next sentence is the sentence that made me pull this quote. But the fundamental purpose and the underlying principles of each what? Well, capitalism and multilateralism, the antecedent of what went before this sentence. The fundamental purpose of multilateralism, the fundamental purpose of capitalism, and their underlying principles of each, listen to this, will first need to be redefined. Aha, there we go. Need to be redefined. You know, anytime social engineers want to push an agenda, they begin by redefining words. They need to redefine things. War is peace. Up is down, black is white, darkness is light. They're always redefining things. In the 60s, they redefined fornication into cohabitation. In the 70s, they redefined the abortion of human life in the womb into women's rights. In the 80s, they redefined homosexuality into an alternative lifestyle. In the 90s, they redefined sexual relations. You remember when Bill Clinton was asked if he had sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky, his famous answer was, and it set the standard for the new way of redefining things. His famous answer was, it all depends on what the definition of is. Yeah, that really happened for those of you who aren't that old. Liberals are always trying to twist and redefine words. In the early 2000s, they redefined marriage. And now they are attempting to redefine gender. It's what they do. It's what they always do. They've been doing so much redefining of things lately that dictionaries are being outdated and updated in real time on a daily basis. Yeah, it's true. So now they must redefine multilateralism and capitalism for their own purposes and designs, just like everything else they've redefined. And it will be a perversion with an unnatural result. Because anytime you redefine something, that's what you're going to come up with, a perversion with an unnatural result. So let me read more from this World Economic Forum article I was referencing. More industry leaders are acknowledging that the purpose of business is not to earn profits at the expense of people and the planet, but rather to develop profitable solutions to shared problems. That was another clause, another sentence that jumped out at me. Because that statement is such utter Marxist sophistry. First, it belies the fundamental premise of a socialist Marxist mentality, because they consider entrepreneurial capitalism to be inherently evil and greedy. That's what it's saying. More industry leaders are acknowledging that the purpose of business is not to earn profits at the expense of people and the planet. Well, most honest business people already know that. I understand that there are evil and greedy people, but you think there aren't evil and greedy people in socialism? You think there aren't evil and greedy people in communism? It's like I said, it's sophistry. And the attitude of Marxists that capitalism is inherently evil and greedy is a complete falsehood. But then this paragraph condescendingly stated what all successful businesses already know in practice, which is that, well, let me read what it said. They said, but rather to develop profitable solutions to shared problems. Well, that's really condescending because, as I said, a successful business or product is in fact produced as a solution to a shared problem. To produce something people need and want, to build a better mousetrap, you could say, and to do it as cheaply as possible and better than the competition. And to bring good customer service is the fundamental key to a successful business that benefits everyone. That is what free trade market capitalism already does or did in the past. That is what free market capitalism is all about. That is why the freedom of the American free market has produced, well, at least in the past anyway, the greatest products in the world, and why America became an economic powerhouse. Did people ever buy Russian-made cars? I went to the Ukraine back in the 90s, and the people there all had these Russian-made cars. They were falling apart. They were literal junk. And now the Soviet Union had fallen, the West was opened up, and now people were dying to buy Dodge. This was back in the 90s, to buy American-made cars, Dodge and Ford. And there was a world of difference. Fords over there in the Ukraine in the 90s were like BMWs to us here in America. I mean, there was such a radical difference in the quality of stuff made. Trump's rallying cry of "Make America Great Again," it's been pilloried by the left, but it had a real legitimacy to it. Because capitalism only went bad when we started making stupid deals with these other nations like China. Capitalism only went bad when it became corporatism. Because what they call and I've shared this before, what they're calling capitalism today is not capitalism, it's corporatism. But again, they're trying to redefine things so they could demean it and impugn it. But the Great Reset isn't even about reviving true capitalism. It's not about recognizing and saying, oh, corporatism's bad. We've got to reset capitalism. Now, they're using the words reset capitalism, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. Because what the Great Reset is seeking to do, it's seeking to not revive true capitalism, but to put corporatism on steroids, which really just amounts to plain old communism, folks. But they won't call it communism. They won't call it collectivism. They'll call it stakeholder capitalism. There is that redefining mechanism at work again. I got so much here. I've got to take another break, folks. I'm going to cut this one short because if I go into my next section here, I'm going to really go overtime. I got to take a break. Stick around. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Here's a tune called Ready to Fly. The fusion of heart, mind, and soul. This is Open Up the Doors with Andy White here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7, 93.3 Napeag, WEGQ 91.7 in Quag. And thanks for hanging out with me from all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. Hey, folks. Hey, if you've never subscribed to my YouTube channel, please I want to mention that right now. Go on over to Google, search it out, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that little bell next to it. That'll notify you of when we do YouTube live broadcasts and when we upload these radio broadcasts over to YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff on there as well that our video producer produces, all these really wonderful short little gospel clips, videos. They're like little devotionals. There's all kinds of stuff over there. We just our heart is to make the Open Up the Doors YouTube channel a place of resources for the body of Christ. I'm also on Rumble, another video platform as well, just in case the day comes when they take us off of YouTube. We got some backup. So, you can just pick your poison. or I shouldn't say that. Choose one from column A or column B, or choose both, Subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to Rumble. But I do want to tell you about a very, very brand new, it's a few months old. You can find me now. I signed up. I'm kind of rushing here because I got so much to get to. All right, I'm going to take a deep breath because I'm just going to have to come back to a lot of stuff next week. I'm looking at my notes. I got a 4-hour program here. But I want to share some other things with you as well. Like the fact that I started up an account on a new social media platform called ConnectZing.com. ConnectZing. It's set up just like Facebook. It's founded by 2 former Navy SEALs, pro-life, pro-American patriots. And unlike Parler, which sadly has been taken out by the enemy, unlike Parler, these guys in this platform would be much, much, much harder to take out, if at all, because they have developed their own infrastructure. They own their own servers. So a tech giant like Amazon or whoever could not, take them down from the servers because they own their own. So I feel like it's a good place. I've gone over to ConnectZing.com. I've set up a page. It's really easy. It's a little slow because it's not like Facebook with mega billions of people on it because it's new. But check it out. You'll really like it. It's easy to navigate. They purposely set it up to look a lot like and navigate a lot like Facebook. And here's the other thing. I started an Open Up the Doors group on ConnectZing.com. And it works just like all the groups work on Facebook. You join the group and you can post. And I want to encourage you to join the group on ConnectZing.com, the Open Up the Doors group, and post the things you want to post. Share the things you want to share. The way pages work in Facebook, they're kind of exclusive to just the administrators. Even though people can post on them, they don't really do that much. But this is a group page I purposely set up for Open Up the Doors on ConnectZing.com. So go on over there, check it out, sign up, and let's reconnect over there as well. Now, let me get back with some closing thoughts here. I've got a ton of stuff here, and there's no way I really need to. There's no way I'm going to get through. So I'm gonna kind of give you a couple of highlights about what's on the 8 predictions. I mentioned up at the top of the broadcast that the World Economic Forum put out an agenda that's an 8-point prediction, 8-point aims of their agenda, and it talks about diminishing the superpower of the U.S. It begins with the number one on this 8-point prediction is you'll own nothing and be happy. I wanted to cover all of these things. I'm not going to have time to, but they got plans for basically taking control of your life in every regard, as I said a moment ago. They've got plans for the food industry. Let me read you some of this because this is very alarming, and I'll try and squeeze it in the few minutes I have. But they are truly the food Nazis, and they are truly trying to take over and centralize food production in a very real and what would be a very dangerous way. The World Economic Forum has for several years been pushing the agenda of reducing the consumption of meat. It's in the Green New Deal as well, because these things are all interconnected. Scientists, however, are now growing meat in laboratories. It only takes, I read this, I almost fell over. It only takes 3 weeks to grow a meat-free steak. Now that's an oxymoron. A meat-free steak, and it looks like the real thing. But let me ask you something. Would you like to eat a steak grown in a laboratory? Because I don't think I would. Scientists have now developed ways to enable them to 3D print meat-free meat. Meat-free meat doesn't even make any sense. Oh, it sounds really yummy, doesn't it? Really yummy. Ugh. And we're not even talking about veggie burgers here. But here's something that's really pretty amazing. In Britain, some place called Sainsbury's. Now, I'm not familiar with what Sainsbury's is. Apparently, it's a market. It's a butcher. Pretty big, I guess, there in Britain. But Sainsbury's, according to this one story I read, opened the first free meat butcher in June of 2019 due to seeing an increase in plant-based meat sales. Sainsbury's also predicts that a quarter of Britain will be vegetarian by 2025. A quarter of Britain. In October of 2020, just a few months ago, the first vegan butchers opened in the UK. I don't know. It sounds like they're redefining terms again. Vegan butchers? Well, you butcher a tomato? I mean, you chop up an onion? I mean, that's being a butcher? I don't. They're redefining terms here. But here's something that really alarmed me. Kentucky Fried Chicken, right here at home in America. I guess they're worldwide too. Kentucky Fried Chicken has announced a move to 3D print all its bone-free chicken. Did you know this? Because I didn't until the other day. I'm not going to get chicken nuggets at KFC anymore. Kentucky Fried Chicken is working with a Russian bioprinting company to 3D print chicken meat using animal cells cultivated in a lab. This is all being put together with the powers that be in the Great Reset because they are seeking to control what we consume and how we produce it, all in the name of climate control. But the Bible calls it, my friends, doctrines of demons. In the last days, they will preach doctrines of demons, forbidding the eating of meats, commanding to abstain from foods which God created to be received with thanksgiving, Paul tells us in Timothy. Yes, the Great Reset, they have a big plan for big food. And I'm running out of time. I just can't finish this. I'm going to have to come back to this right away next week because this is alarming. One of the things that the Biden administration did this past week, I don't know if you heard about this, because, again, the Biden administration is full on board with the Great Reset. And the architects of the Great Reset, they claim that their plan will reduce hunger and disease and even mitigate climate change. And they got all these big corporations working together with them. But this past week, the Biden administration took $30 billion that President Trump had allocated for farmers. He stopped that and switched it over to a carbon bank to pay farmers. Biden's plan is to create a carbon bank to pay farmers for using sustainable farming practices to capture carbon in soil. Folks, this is extremely dangerous. It is only going to put smaller family-owned farms out of business, but that is exactly what they want to do. They don't want private businesses or farms. They want government in control of the food production. Shades of the Ukrainian famine, anyone? Remember the great famine in the 1930s that killed millions of Ukrainians because the communist government decided to take over the food production and they confiscated all the farmland? That's going on under our noses right here all across America. U.S. farmland is being gobbled up by foreign interests, my friends. And I'm running out of time, so I can't get into all that. I'll revisit that next week. But I want to close with this. Because this is where really the tire meets the road for us as Christians. Peter reminds us about the end times. And he writes, nevertheless, brethren, we, according to his promise, we're looking for a new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. You, therefore, beloved, since you know these things beforehand, I'm sharing you these things beforehand. Beware lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the error of the wicked. I got to run, folks. I'm going to pick this theme up next week. But in the meantime, watch, stand fast in the faith, be brave, be bold, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. Until next week, God bless you, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors.